Hi, Shari Strong with Lead Follower Get Out of the Way. Welcome. I am so excited about this show this week because this week we are going to be talking about all the voices in your head. Yes, you know, the ones that say, I can't do that, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm too fat, or I don't have a degree, or I live in Bell County. Guess what? There are 4 departments that those voices live in inside our head. And when you come back after the break, I'm going to talk about all 4 of those departments and give you a few tips on how to handle them so that, because once you're aware of something, you can't under-aware it. So join me after the break and we're going to get to talking about those 4 departments of where the voices are coming from.
Whatever your vocation, you can increase your impact on others by becoming a person of influence. Learn simple, insightful ways to interact more positively with others. Learn how to influence others in the most positive way, and your potential is unlimited. Start your flight to success with this 4-week
Hi,
class.
Shari Strong with Lead Follower Get Out of the Way. Welcome back. This week we are going to be talking about dealing with the voices in your head. You know, the inner critic. Couple of things. My son, you may or may not know, has paranoid schizophrenia. He's 24 years old, and it was caused, half of the doctors say it was caused because of drug use, and it brought out the gene when he was 18, or I think he was around 17 years old, and it caused paranoid schizophrenia. And then the other half say he was actually schizophrenic and he was using the drugs to self-medicate. Doesn't matter which one at this point, why he is the way he is. God's blessed me with him, and he is, by the way, he's doing awesome. He's 24, lives on his own. But the first few years were tough, and it was tough to overcome, especially when you find out and you hear that your child is hearing voices. And some of those voices take on your voice. As his mother, I was this alien inside of his head. I've been called worse, but you know, it was very tough to deal with. And he actually has what's called thought broadcasting. He thinks everybody in the world already knows what he's thinking, so why in the world should he have to tell you? It's 24/7. So even when he's sleeping, he hears voices. And what happens is that every noise, so if he's in a large room with a lot of people, it just sounds like if you're inside the UT Tennessee Stadium in a game, like it was a few weeks ago, and the decimals were 115. That's his head constantly, always trying to take a noise and make it a voice. But what's interesting is when talking with Josh about the voices, and he's on medication, but unfortunately the medication will never eliminate all of them. So he has just learned to own it. First he had to own the disease, and then he's had to own the fact that he has these voices. Now, Josh, he does awesome. He has taught me so many things, and I admire him. He's one of the people I admire most in the world, mainly for a few reasons. First of all, because he has owned it. A lot of people don't understand that the first thing that we have to do is own where we are at in life. It isn't our parents' fault. It isn't our boss's fault. It isn't our family's fault. It isn't our financial situation's fault why we are where we are. Basically, it's the choices we've made. Now, yes, when you were younger, those choices weren't always in your control. But as an adult, every choice you made, you're right where you are because you made a decision or you didn't make a decision. And the sooner you own that, the better off you're going to be. So sorry to get so deep so early this week, but it's really important because what we're going to be talking about. Second reason why I admire Josh so much is he has all the hope in the world. See, he was with a group of friends. There was 4 of them, and of those 4, he's the only one left at the age of 24. One of them was in a car accident, and the other 2 have taken their life. One of them, as recently as last year, had a baby girl. And of course, when that happens as a mother, I just want to call him and make sure he's doing okay. And what's he thinking? What are the voices telling him? And what he says to me is, Mom, I have all the hope in the world. I can't imagine doing that. And he has all these voices. He said, well, there's a positive part, and that's the third reason, one of the third reason why I admire him, is he sees the positive in everything. And what happens is with most of us who are considered normal out here in the world, we have voices in our head and we think we're crazy. We tell ourselves when we get up in the morning, oh, it's going to be a bad day. I can't do this. I wish I had that. I wish I had more money. Wish I was smarter. Wish I had my own business. We wish we were in different circumstances. And then the voices take over. Because as soon as you think of something, your brain is going to figure out why you think that. So if you think you're not good enough, it's going to tell you why you're not. If you think you're not smart enough, it's going to find all the reasons why you're not smart enough. It's going to remind you why you're not smart enough. And what Josh has taught me is he said, Mom, the good part of having these voices is I'm never alone. He's learned how to use them to his advantage because they're 24 hours, 7 days a week. Even at night when he's sleeping. So he has a noise machine to help drown it out a little bit. So as I was preparing for this week, Josh inspired me because most of us get up and we have voices in our head too, but we haven't learned to deal with them. First of all, we haven't owned it. We don't have hope because we haven't owned it. And then we don't look at the positive reasons why we are where we are and where, more importantly, we're going to go. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is there's 4 departments, if you will, of where those voices live and why we think that way. And the better off and the more tools you can have to overcome those voices and to deal with them, the quicker you're going to be able to move forward and attain what you want to attain, which is what this show is all about, helping you do more, be more, and have more. That's why I'm here. So let's talk about those. The first one is called a limiting belief. A limiting belief are beliefs that you have about the world, about people, situations that hold you back from being successful. They hold you back from attaining and getting what you want. So if you do not believe something is possible, the odds are you're likely not going to attempt it. And even if you do, you're not going to put your full energy towards it because why would you? You really don't believe you can have it. And what limiting beliefs are is something, it's kind of like the lid. We talked about law of the lid a few weeks ago where on a scale of 1 to 10, you have a lid of where you believe you are. And until you raise that lid, that's where you're going to be at. You have to raise the lid. Well, that's kind of this. This is the lid that's stopping you from going higher, attaining more, having more, achieving more, being more. So what are some examples of those? So I've written some down here. 1, motherhood and employment can't mix. You can't be, it's a lot in the world, you hear a lot about it right now out in the media. So the book by Cheryl, oh my gosh, her name is off the, I should have written it down. She talks about being a CEO and not taking time off. And then the next woman is a CEO and she should take time off. And I don't know what's right or wrong for you. What I am saying is they can mix. I worked my way up in a male-dominated industry. Now, did I miss anniversaries and birthdays? Absolutely. But here's the thing. Why should they give me special treatment? Because I'm a woman? Right? It was a limiting belief. I had to go, okay, this is the culture I'm in. This is the requirements of the job. Doesn't make the company wrong. If I want that job, this is the requirements. I got ahead just like everybody else did. But if I wasn't willing to do what it took to do it, it would have stopped me. Another limiting belief, you have to have money to make money. False. Not true. To make money, you have to have an idea. You have to have action. You've got to have a plan. You've got to have drive. 13 years ago, I was delivering newspapers. No money. So, false. It's a limit. It limits what we believe. Showing emotion is a sign of weakness. I tell you what, folks, it's taken me a long time. See, now that I say the word emotion, it's getting me emotional. Talking about Josh has taken me a long time to be able to speak about it without crying. And not because I'm sad, but actually because he inspires me so much. And I hope that touches you and moves you. Shouldn't be a sign of weakness because I show emotion. Now, again, you can overuse any emotion. The bottom line here is that when you have a limiting belief, it stops you. It's your excuse for not doing or starting or moving forward on something that you want or believe you can have or do. So let's go ahead and jump forward where there's 3 more. And just so you know, when you return after the break, we'll go over the rest of these, and I'm going to give you some tips and tools to handle all of them. So number 2, assumptions. An assumption, I'm just going to read this, okay? An assumption is a belief that because something happened in the past, it is automatically going to happen again. So assumptions are a little bit more personal, if you will. They come from personal experience, where a limiting belief is usually comes from the outside. So somebody tells you you can't do something because you live in Bell County. You live in Bell County, Kentucky. You want to do what? Right? So an assumption, though, is more from personal experience. So because you were younger, you were bullied by the rich kids. You think all rich kids are bullies. You believe that in the past, every time you've interviewed for a job, you haven't gotten it. So when you go interview for this job, you shouldn't expect to get it either. So it's an assumption that you have, it's a belief that you have created based on experience. It's always been this way, so it will always be this way. This guy's always been a jerk, so he's always going to be a jerk. Now, in that case, it might be true. Okay, but see what I'm saying here is that assumptions hold you back because it's a past experience and you think you already know. Well, guess what? You don't know what you don't know. And if you always think that you know the definition of sanity, always do what you've always done, and you're always going to get the results that you've gotten. You have to change what you've been doing in order to change where you're going. And assumptions, now in business world, you have to make assumptions. In your job, you have to make some assumptions. What I'm talking about here is assumptions that stop us from being successful with our families, in relationships, and in our businesses. So, the first 2, limiting beliefs, they hold you back. It's based on you believe that because of this, you can't do this. Assumptions, it's based on an experience you had, so therefore it must be true, and moving forward, it will happen again. Join me after the break. We're going to cover the other 2, and then I'm going to give you tips on how to handle all 4 of them. See you after the break.
It's not unusual for problems to arise when you're working towards a goal or finishing a project. As these obstacles present themselves, problem-solving strategies can be utilized to help you overcome them so you can achieve your goal. Most people get caught up in the cause rather than the solution. In this course, Problem Solving 101, you'll learn the process to remove or deal with obstacles that the most successful people use so they can focus on solutions and ultimately getting results. Here's what you'll take away from this course. First, how to clearly identify problems and their root causes. Second, the understanding that not all tension is bad. Third, a clear process to resolve problems. Fourth, an implementation plan of the process. Fifth, how to analyze the solution. Fly to new heights in your new career and remove obstacles from your path. Check the calendar to see when this course is starting
Shari
again.
Strong with Lead Follower, Get Out of the Way. Welcome back. So we're talking about the voices in your head, right? The critic, the inner critic, the things that tell us that stop us from getting what we want in life. Now we spoke about limiting beliefs and assumptions before the break. Now I'm going to discuss interpretations and, are you ready? Gremlins. I'm not talking about the ones that you put water on and they expand and multiply. However, sometimes the voices in our head are kind of like that when it's negative. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I'll tell you a little joke real quick though. You know, we all talk to ourselves. It's not a bad thing. In fact, it helps us think things through. It's a matter of what words are we using when we do talk to ourselves. I was driving one time, my kids, I don't know, they were like 10, 11, and 12, and I was always talking to myself, you know, thinking things through and dreaming about, and I'm going to do this and do that and blah, 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 blah. And I was driving, and I just started laughing one time, and my kids are like, Mom, you're talking to yourself again. And I was laughing, and I said, yeah, so they're like, well, what are you laughing about? I said, well, I just told myself a joke, and I've never heard that one before. So, okay, there you go. You can use that. Anyway, so talking to yourself isn't always bad, right? So let's go on. We have everybody in the studio laughing. See, this is what I do for them. It's not a limiting belief. I believe I can make them laugh, therefore I do. All right, energy block number 3. These are the things that stop us. The third one is interpretation. So what's an interpretation? Basically, again, I'm going to read this first sentence. It's an opinion you create about an event, situation, or an experience. So basically, you form an opinion without all the information, and then guess what you do? You go find the information to support it. You find the evidence to support it. So, man, that group of people, they are always like that. Now, it's not necessarily because of what's happened in the past, an assumption. You just don't want to go do it. So your interpretation of this group of women or this group of men. So what do? You go looking for it. Yeah, I'll go there, but that group of people, I don't want to associate with them. Why? I don't know. So then you go there, and what are you doing? You're looking for reasons never to come back. You find what you're looking for. It's amazing. It's kind of like when you go buy a vehicle of choice. You never see that white Taurus or you bought a new Ford down here down the street, and all of a sudden you see them everywhere. It's that way. Whatever you're looking for, you're going to find. And what happens is with interpretations, if you stick with them, you'll have very little chance of focusing on anything else. So if you interpret something to be true and it's not, or you don't have all the information to support it, you're going to go find it. And then you miss things. It's called being tunnel vision. Now, tunnel vision is sometimes very good. If you've got a task and you've been put on a project and you need to be tunnel vision, yes, that's a good thing. What I'm talking about here is when you're forming opinions. When you start forming opinions about people, places, companies, things without knowing them, without really getting to know it, the situation, you're going to find it. So this is where we say you don't get in life what you want, you get in life who you are. Because if that's who you are and you're negative and you are always saying negative things, guess what? Negative people hate happy people. I love being who I am. Sometimes just to make people mad. I know it makes them mad because I'm happy. How fun is that? Right? I mean, people actually get upset when other people are happy. I'll never understand that. Never. Right? So when we form interpretations, as a result, you may feel like you have control over what might happen next, but what happens is you don't, because you've interpreted the situation wrong. You won't end up enjoying it. All right, number 4, gremlins. Now we're going to spend a little time here. So what is a gremlin? What is she talking about? So gremlins come from, in the coaching world, executive coaching world, it is really about your inner critic. It's that voice in the head that tells you not to try, to never take a risk, always take the safe road, compromise by staying small, stay in the job you're at, it's secure, don't try anything new, right? It's the message that's telling you you're not good enough. Who are you to think that you could go out and do what you're doing? So some of the gremlin statements are, and it's very personal. Here's what I wrote down. I'm not effective. Who am I kidding here? I can't do this. I'm not smart enough to do this job. Before I came here, who am I to get a television show to help people and talk about self-help? I don't have enough experience. I don't deserve success. I didn't come from success. My parents weren't successful. You know what? They're going to find out that I'm not who I say I am. They're going to find out my past. A gremlin keeps you where you're at. Here's the thing, and here's how I help people with this, and I hope this helps you too. Gremlin comes the part of our psyche that is our ego. Now, most people think of ego when they think of the guy, or the lady that's out there all boisterous and yeah, I'll take you down. They're always the big bullies, and I have the biggest house, I have the biggest car. They're always one-upping you, right? Well, you did that, well, I did this, and well, you should see what I've done. They're the right, like they are large in ego. Like their ego would never let them come to. I'm not going to deal with those people. I'm not going to go out there and talk to them. I'm better than that. Well, the ego I'm talking about, guess what? We all have it. When the ego comes out in the way that I was just describing, it's the same ego that we all have, but typically it comes out in another way. It stops you from saying anything. It keeps you where you're at. That's ego as well. See, our ego is meant to help us stay safe. Our ego doesn't want us to get hurt. That's why you make assumptions. That's why you have limiting beliefs, because it wants to keep. The ego doesn't want to keep you where you're at. It just doesn't want you to get hurt. So what happens is we sit here and go, I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm scared. Our heart starts to race when we're trying something new. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like if you think of your ego sitting on your shoulder, and as a good thing, not as a bad thing, and say, you know what? Thanks. I got this. I'm going to go ahead and try something new. I'm going to go ahead and look up what classes are starting. I'll figure it out. Thank you for protecting me, but I got this. That's your gremlin. It's sitting on your shoulder, and it's not there to hurt you. In fact, it's there to protect you. And if you can just make that little mind shift of how you can say, you know what? I understand what you're saying. You can't do this. You're not sure. I don't have money. But say, I understand that. Thank you for helping me out. I need you to go sit in the corner this week or this month or this year, because I'm going to go do what I want to do. I'm going to go achieve the dream I have. I'm going to go start the business I want to start. I'm going to go start school. I'm going to do this. Yes, I'm scared, but I got this. I'll call on you if I need you. That's the gremlin. And it's hard when your gremlin talks not to listen, because for many of us, it took me into my 40s to say, I don't need you so much. Because that gremlin is interpretations, limiting beliefs, assumptions, all the things that we have experienced externally handed to us or just internally from past experience, built up into whatever it looks like. Mine actually looked like a Barbie. So I do this whole activity with people, and mine was, believe it or not, years ago, the reason I didn't want to start my own business is I didn't look like who I thought I should look like. Because in my head, I thought I had to be 120 pounds and bleach blonde to start a business. Now, I know that sounds really weird, but that's what, in my head, that's what I thought it was. So I let it stop me. So I went and got a Barbie, dressed her up, and now, now I don't do it anymore. But years ago, I had her sitting there like, no, don't need you today. I'm good the way I am. I'm going to go do what I need to do. I'll let you talk to me later tonight when I'm working out. Right? Bottom line. So here's the thing. I wish we had more time to dig into this, and this is one of the things I help people with at Strong Success Academy. Bottom line is I want you this next week to write down what are, first of all, a few of your limiting beliefs. And remember, those are statements like, you have to have money to make money. I'm too skinny. I'm too fat. Whatever those are, write those down. What are your limiting beliefs? You got to recognize them before you'll deal with them. What are the assumptions that you have made that hold you back? Like, well, if I do that, then this will happen. Because it's always been this way in the past, it'll be this way in the future. Write those down, top 2. As far as interpretations, what I want you to focus on are basically your excuses. What are the excuses you have made to yourself to stop from moving forward? And remember, you're only as honest with yourself as you can be, because unless you call me personally, nobody's going to know. Write them down. And when you figure out what your limiting beliefs are, the assumptions you have made are, and the interpretations are, and it takes courage to do this, folks. When you take the time to write those 3 things down, that's when you'll be able to recognize what is composing the gremlin that's sitting on your shoulder. What your ego is made of. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I really, really challenge you to take time to do this. And after the break, we'll give you the challenge for the next week.